de lugares distantes de la ciudad si los paramédicos cumplen su amenaza de trabajar según lo estipula su contrato. Bomberos de la ciudad, incluyendo los paramédicos, han estado trabajando sin contrato desde el 31 de diciembre de 1991. Los paramédicos sostienen que tienen poco tiempo o poco equipo y personal y que, según ellos, no son respetados por los 4,000 bomberos de Chicago.
El despido de un popular maestro de la secundaria River
for help may not bring an immediate response. That's because Chicago Fire Department paramedics are threatening a slowdown. They're doing it to send a message to City Hall. Channel 2's Dorothy Tucker has the story.
It is mid-afternoon in downtown Chicago when an elderly man suddenly goes down. Normally, the paramedics would answer this call, but today the Chicago firefighters are first on the scene, and the paramedics come later, minutes later. Some paramedics admit that they're running late because they're staging a work slowdown.
It's going to be dotting the I's, crossing the T's. It's going to be exactly by the book. Every piece of equipment will be brought in. It's going to take a little bit longer.
Paramedics are taking this job action because they're angry with their union. They belong to the same union as firefighters, and many want to be trained as firemen. And they say that the union is ignoring their demands in its negotiations with the city. With the paramedics slowing down this weekend, the firefighters will answer more calls than normal. And paramedics say the public could suffer.
Would you feel confident with your life or your family's life with a fireman standing over it or a paramedic?
When you're in cardiac arrest and a fire truck pulls up, they don't have the equipment to defibrillate you. We do.
Paramedics realize the danger they're causing the public, and while some say they'll slow down, they also promise to answer calls they determine to be life-threatening. But that's not very comforting to the elderly who rely on paramedics. Charlie Brackett suffers from asthma. He needs an ambulance 3 or 4 times a year, and he wants them there every time.
It's important. Very important.
Why?
Because that's the only, that's the quick way you can get to the hospital or get to a doctor.
Most of the people's going to die because they're not going to be able to get, look, if you can't get to where you're going to need help, you're going to die.
And there are 600 paramedics who work in the city. Not all of them are taking part in the work slowdown. But those who are say it is just for the weekend and things should return to normal by Monday night. Lester?
All right, Dorothy, thank you. The search goes on this afternoon.
But angry paramedics believe Chicagoans are being shortchanged by the city, which refuses to cross-train all firefighters as paramedics. That even though fire engines often respond first to medical calls.
The firefighters have very basic first aid training. Most medical situations they're just not trained to deal with.
And paramedics are equally angry with union leaders who they feel have failed to push cross-training in contract talks.
They removed the only paramedic member from the negotiating team, and that can't have anything but a negative effect on the negotiations because we do not have a voice in them now.
Union leaders tonight are saying the bargaining team was cut down to try to speed up the talks, but that the paramedics still have a voice in the negotiations. Meanwhile, a fire department spokesman says there are no signs of any work slowdown as yet. Mark, back to you.
All right, Derek, thanks. Well, we've heard
of the firefighters union today, who said that was because some paramedics were upset that no paramedic was to be in the 5-member bargaining unit. But he said that no decisions would be made on the contract unless a member of the paramedics unit was included in that decision-making process. So he did not and does not recommend a slowdown for this weekend. And so we have checked hospitals today, and there does not seem to be any type of a slowdown, rather business as usual.
I've been on duty almost 11 hours, and this is my 9th run, so we haven't seen much of a slowdown today.
The threat of a slowdown by Chicago Fire Department paramedics does not seem to be shaping up. Across the city, an average number of responses seems to be occurring. Hospitals report no apparent drop-off in the frequency of cases rolling into their emergency rooms. Firefighter union representatives, who also represent the paramedics, say any slowdown by paramedics would also hurt the delicate contract negotiations which are presently underway.
We've been negotiating for a long time for this contract. We've been trying to get it done, and to throw a wrench into the whole process right now is, we believe, counterproductive.
There doesn't seem to be any shortage of paramedics responding to alarms as the usual number of emergency calls continue to pour in. And throughout the city of Chicago, as paramedics respond to calls for various cases, they are responding in a usual manner, they tell us, and there's no slowdown going on.
It was not sanctioned by our union in any way, shape, or form, and I don't believe that there will be any type of slowdown this weekend for the citizens of Chicago.
And as we said, there has seemed to be business as usual here at most of the hospitals, paramedics saying that they want to take care of the citizens of Chicago. Live from Cook County Hospital, Robert Jordan, WGN News.
All right, thank you, Bob. If you're planning to travel...
Intention of staging a slowdown this holiday weekend to win contract concessions.
I don't believe there'll be any job action because I think the paramedics are a dedicated group who are here to serve the city of Chicago, and the majority of them will not be, you know, sucked into something like that.
But this anonymous memo posted in fire stations across the city threatened a 4-day-long quality assurance program over the Memorial Day weekend. The memo urged that paramedics work to the letter of the law.
Tonight, a Schererville, Indiana...
But this year, some paramedics will be busy making a point. Some Chicago Fire Department paramedics are staging a slowdown. Many of them want to be trained as firefighters, but they say the union is ignoring their demands in its negotiations with the city. They're hoping to get that point across by staging the slowdown.
It's going to be dotting the I's, crossing the T's. It's going to be exactly by the book. Every piece of equipment will be brought in. It's going to take a little bit longer, but they're going to get what they want.
Not all of the paramedics are taking part in the weekend slowdown, but those who are say they will respond quickly to life-threatening calls.
It is, of course, a start.
Rules to save lives and time. But this weekend, some paramedics are protesting stalled contract talks by working by the book. That doesn't mean you're in danger, but it does mean some of the city's 600 paramedics will stop cutting corners. Paperwork will take a bit longer, and the medics will bring all of their equipment to the patient instead of bringing the patient to the equipment. The work action began this morning. The medics involved say it will continue until Tuesday. But so far, the fire commissioner says he hasn't noticed any difference in paramedic services.